Delta and American Airlines say they will permanently drop ticket change fees for most domestic flights.
Delta Airlines accountable after the company announced a plan to use AI to set ticket prices.
Something big just happened in the airline world. American Airlines, Delta, and United teamed up with the CEO of Airbus to make a huge announcement that could change the way we fly. These are three major competitors, yet they stood side by side to reveal something no one saw coming. Is it about new planes, cleaner skies, or something even bigger? Why are they suddenly working together?
Reflect on the new challenges, on the new situation, and make sure that the way forward, that the priorities, that the initiatives we have.
Join us as we break down what this huge announcement is all about, why it matters, and how it could shape the future of flying for everyone. The Big Three meets with Airbus. American Airlines, Delta, and United are the three biggest airlines in the U.S. American Airlines is the second biggest airline in the U.S., flying around 992 large jets from both Airbus and Boeing. It's also planning to add over 300 new planes, including some high-speed boom overture jets. On average, its planes are about 14 years old. Delta Airlines isn't far behind, with 987 jets in its fleet, and it's been working hard to upgrade by adding newer Airbus models like the A220, A330, and A350. It also has a strong repair and maintenance setup, and its planes are a little older, about 15 years on average. United Airlines leads with over 1,000 planes and has launched a major upgrade plan called United Next, which brings in new Boeing 787s, better interiors, faster internet, and more entertainment options. Now, here's the big news. All three airlines have agreed with the Airbus CEO, Guillaume Faury, that Airbus won't pay the new U.S. import taxes on planes built in Europe. Instead, the airlines would have to cover the extra cost. This joint decision could lead to big changes in how these airlines buy their planes and may spark new trade talks between the U.S. and Europe. It feels like Airbus is gently nudging U.S. carriers to accept those rising import tariffs. Now, as that shift plays out, the real tug-of-war between manufacturer and airline becomes clearer. To begin with, Airbus CEO Guillaume Faury has been explicit. If aircraft cross the Atlantic, U.S. import duties land squarely on the airlines, not Airbus. But what exactly are tariffs, and why do they matter? Think of tariffs as a kind of extra charge or tax that a country places on goods coming in from another country. For example, imagine you order a brand new phone online from overseas. When it arrives in your country, customs may ask you to pay a fee before you can collect it. That fee? That's a tariff. It's meant to make foreign products more expensive so that people are more likely to buy locally made alternatives. Now, apply that to airlines. When American, Delta, or United order Airbus planes built in Europe, the U.S. government may charge a tariff on those planes when they arrive. It's like the government saying, if you're going to buy from Europe instead of Boeing, which is a U.S. company, you'll have to pay extra. In this case, Airbus has made it clear that it won't pay that extra fee. The airlines will. So, if Delta wants a brand new A350 from Airbus's factory in France, it must either pay the extra tariff or delay the delivery. In short, tariffs are like tolls on imported goods, and just like tolls on a road trip, someone has to foot the bill. Airbus CEO, in a recent earnings call, reinforced that point, stating that planes finished in Europe and flown into the US come with a tariff bill that must be footed by the buyer. Consequently, airlines like Delta, American, and United are finding themselves at a crossroads. They're being forced to answer a question they'd hoped to avoid. Who really pays for the cost of these levies? Moreover, Faury's choice of words was telling. He made it seem almost like a polite push. He said that the airlines are also not very much willing to pay tariffs, but it's on them, framing the issue as an airline problem, not Airbus's. Meanwhile, airlines aren't sitting still. Delta, for instance, has signaled it won't absorb these extra charges and may defer deliveries as a result. American and United joined in, suggesting a shared strategy, delay, reroute, or even rethink fleet plans. In addition, This dynamic has triggered some creative workarounds. For example, routing new A350s through Tokyo before they enter US airspace sidesteps the direct import route and dodges those extra fees. But isn't that a short-term patch rather than a lasting resolution? Such tariff engineering buys time, but it also adds logistical complexity and potentially more costs disguised as savvy operational tweaks. Furthermore, Airbus isn't backing down. Rather, it appears to be placing its bets on flexibility and a shift in norms. Fari even openly advocated for a revival of tariff-free status under pre-existing aerospace agreements. Yet the impact isn't limited to Airbus. U.S. aerospace groups, including airlines and parts makers, are vocal in seeking exemptions, or at least a return to stability. They warn that sustained tariffs threaten growth, delay aircraft deliveries, and could even push back planned flights. Still, industry insiders caution that if neither party budges, the ripples may be broader. Higher ticket prices, postponed fleet expansion, or even rerouted global supply chains that weigh on carriers' bottom lines. Ultimately, this isn't about Airbus avoiding tariffs. It's a negotiation tactic combining leverage and pressure. By nudging airlines to take responsibility, Airbus has shifted the narrative. The spotlight is now firmly on U.S. carriers to decide whether to swallow the cost, reroute, or simply wait. But why does nobody want to pay? The answers will surprise you. Why nobody wants to pay? Nobody likes paying for something they believe isn't their burden to bear, especially when the price tag runs into millions. That's exactly what we're seeing with major U.S. airlines like Delta and American. Imagine ordering a delivery meal, and just before it arrives, you're told there's a surprise surcharge, except instead of a few dollars, it's millions in import duties. That's the situation facing these airlines. The aircraft were ordered under a different financial understanding, and now, with U.S. tariffs looming over European-made Airbus planes, airlines are saying it's not their bill to pay. Delta Airlines was one of the first to draw a hard line. Their CEO didn't mince words. No tariff payments, period. Rather than buckle under new fees, they're hitting pause on deliveries. It is like someone refusing to pick up a car they bought because taxes were suddenly added at pickup, except in this case, each car is a multi-million-dollar jet. American Airlines chimed in with a similar tone, saying it's hard to justify the added cost. Their CFO's comments suggest that even with deep pockets, the math just doesn't add up when the cost isn't theirs to own. Ultimately, it's a classic case of financial tug-of-war. The government slaps tariffs to exert trade pressure, Airbus washes its hands clean, and the buyers, airlines, are left holding the invoice. But instead of simply absorbing the blow, they're pushing back. In real life, it's like tenants refusing to pay for a sudden property tax hike their landlord never warned them about. Airlines are saying, if Airbus won't cover it, and we didn't sign up for it, why should we be the ones to pay? United Airlines, on the other hand, opted for a calmer tone. CEO Scott Kirby said that United didn't expect a significant impact because many of their Airbus jets are built in Alabama, and that it's too early to call this a crisis. But why the discord among the big three? Well, Delta and American lean heavily on Airbus wide bodies built in Europe, making them vulnerable to tariffs. United benefits slightly more from local assembly, giving it room to breathe. Back to Delta's approach. Instead of paying, they've put deliveries on pause and are exploring workarounds like rerouting planes to avoid direct U.S. imports or entirely deferring deliveries. It's a chess game in motion, and the stakes are high. Delta warned that new tariffs could halt new Airbus orders and eliminate flights, potentially affecting up to 10 million passengers a year. It's no small matter, and here's why. If carriers repeatedly delay deliveries, getting back in the production queue becomes trickier. Aero supply chains could stretch thin. Is this smart planning or a gamble risking future capacity? Meanwhile, Americans' lobbying efforts parallel Delta's stance. Their government affairs team is pushing hard for an exemption under the 1979 Civil Aircraft Agreement, describing paying tariffs as economically insane. And just as Airbus hopes tariffs will vanish, airlines are building a united front. Delta's hardline approach and Americans' vocal refusal are setting an industry precedent. All told, carriers are signaling that unless relief comes, they'll delay, reroute, or even cancel orders. That message isn't passive, it's a direct pushback designed to pressure both Airbus and Washington to find a resolution. Creative ways to dodge tariffs. The big three have come up with creative delivery methods, and in this case, it's all about sending brand new jets on a detour through Tokyo before they reach US soil. To begin with, Delta has revived a strategy from 2019 by routing its new Airbus A350 to 900s from Toulouse to Tokyo before bringing them home. That simple diversion shifts the aircraft's official first commercial flight outside the EU and, crucially, out of U.S. tariff territory. Moreover, under U.S. customs law, a new imported aircraft is one that hasn't flown any revenue service outside of production tests or direct delivery. By flying to Tokyo first, Delta ensures each plane is no longer classified as a fresh import. Consequently, when those jets land in the U.S., they arrive as used aircraft, effectively sidestepping the 10% import tariff. It's a legal loophole, but one that comes with a hefty dose of logistics. Delta's CEO, Ed Bastian, has made it very clear. They're not paying the new tariff fees on Airbus planes. Instead of just accepting the extra cost, they've found a way around it. They're either delaying when they get their planes or sending them on clever travel routes, like through Tokyo, so they don't count as direct imports. It's kind of like finding a back road to avoid a toll gate, but there's a catch. This trick works better for big planes like the A350, not so much for smaller ones that usually fly within the US. So the big question is, can this sneaky method work long term? Still, it's working right now, and it's saving a lot of money. Just skipping the 10% tax on one A350 jet saves Delta almost $28 million. When you multiply that by several planes, the savings get huge. And it's not just Delta doing this, Airbus is on board too. Their CEO has even said these rerouted deliveries help deal with trade issues, and they've done similar things before. Places like Tokyo's Narita Airport are no longer just stopovers. They've become clever pit stops that help airlines dodge expensive import rules for now. But Delta didn't stop there. They've gone even further by literally taking the engines off brand new Airbus planes in Europe. The engines are American-made, so they're sent back to the US without any extra taxes. Meanwhile, the rest of the plane stays put overseas. This way, Delta still gets engines to fix or power their planes at home, without having to import a whole new aircraft and pay millions in tariffs. It's a smart move, like ordering the parts of a car separately so you don't get charged for the whole thing at once. Because of the tariffs, Delta has come up with a clever trick: leave the full planes in Europe and just bring the engines back to the US. These grounded planes basically become donors, giving their engines to older Delta jets that need a boost. This way, Delta avoids paying the massive import fees on a full aircraft, but still gets what it needs to keep planes flying at home. CEO Ed Bastian has made it clear: Delta won't pay any aircraft tariffs, period. Experts call this kind of move tariff engineering, tweaking how things are shipped to cut costs without breaking any rules. So far, removing engines is proving smarter than simply delaying orders or changing delivery routes. It's more dramatic, yes, but also cheaper and more helpful, especially now that the world is dealing with an engine shortage. Those US-made engines can go straight into grounded jets in America, getting more planes back in the air without the high cost of a full aircraft import. Still, Delta is keeping its options open. For aircraft that still have tariffs on them, the airline is holding off delivery, buying time while using the engine trick as another flexible option in its toolkit. Of course, this kind of workaround isn't simple. The engines are American-made, but the rest of the plane is European, creating a complicated system that's all about cutting costs without crossing any lines. Airbus's CEO, Guillaume Faury, has warned that if the tariff battle drags on, everyone loses: manufacturers, airlines, and passengers. So it seems the only solution for now is to go back. Keep watching to find out what this means. Going back to old trade rules. Now that airlines and Airbus have gone back and forth over who should pay the new tariffs, Airbus is trying a different approach, digging into the history books. CEO Guillaume Faury is calling on world leaders to bring back a trade deal from 1979 that let aeroplane parts and planes move between countries without any extra fees. Over 30 countries agreed to it back then, and it helped the aviation industry grow without added costs. Faury believes returning to those old rules would be a win for everyone, especially U.S. airlines and manufacturers who now risk paying millions. He warned that continuing the trade fight will only hurt both sides, especially the U.S., where aircraft production depends on teamwork across borders. The U.S. aerospace industry has a lot to lose, over $75 billion in yearly trade profits that grew under the no-tariff setup. That's why big U.S. airlines like Delta and United, along with aircraft makers, are pushing hard for the duty-free rules to come back. Even the U.S. Transportation Secretary, Sean Duffy, stepped in at the Paris Air Show, backing the return of the 1979 deal. He explained that these tax-free rules have been essential for U.S. companies that sell more planes abroad than they bring in. Meanwhile, behind the scenes, aerospace companies are carefully combing through their contracts, trying to figure out who pays what if the tariffs don't go away soon. With all this pressure mounting, it's fair to ask, can the old no-tariff agreement be revived? If politicians act quickly, it could bring stability back to jet prices, delivery schedules, and the supply of aircraft parts. But there's tension brewing. If talks with the U.S. fall through, Europe is already preparing to hit back with its own taxes, possibly on U.S.-made Boeing jets. That raises the stakes even higher. Boeing, GE Aerospace, and other big players are now urging Washington to act fast, warning that if this trade war drags on, companies may move production abroad, putting America's dominance in the skies at risk. Still, questions remain. Will President Trump and Congress prioritize aerospace in the broader trade agenda? And can this agreement be extended beyond the original 30 nations to include fast-evolving aerospace players like India, China, and Brazil? Ultimately, this isn't just a nostalgic appeal. It's a strategic move steeped in economics, diplomacy, and industrial strength. Restoring the 1979 duty-free framework could be the key to keeping aerospace innovation airborne and ensuring both Airbus and U.S. carriers land on solid ground once more. The whole aviation industry is starting to speak out, and the message is clear. These tariffs could do real damage. From private jet makers like Bombardier and Gulfstream to commercial giants like Boeing and Airbus, everyone's feeling the heat. Planes are built with materials like steel and aluminum, which are already facing tariffs, so prices are rising even before the planes are finished. To protect themselves, buyers are now rushing orders or adding special rules in contracts to avoid being stuck with extra costs. Industry leaders say this mess could break apart the teamwork that keeps planes safe, affordable, and built on time, threatening thousands of skilled jobs. For passengers, the warning signs are already here. The International Air Transport Association, also known as IATA, recently lowered its profit expectations for 2025, blaming trade fights, nervous travelers, and delayed aircraft. Delta even said it might stop buying certain planes or cancel flights, affecting around 10 million passengers a year. These aren't just big numbers on paper. This could lead to fewer options and higher prices for everyday travelers. On top of that, airlines and aviation groups warn that if trusted suppliers can't keep up with higher costs, cheaper and possibly unsafe parts could creep into the system, putting safety at risk. And what about passengers themselves? People are starting to pull back. Long-distance travel, especially flights across the Atlantic, is slowing as folks get nervous about the economy. Even though post-COVID travel is still strong, experts say this kind of uncertainty sticks around. One example, Embraer, a Brazilian aircraft maker, says a proposed 50% U.S. tariff on its planes could add $9 million per jet, enough to pause production altogether. That's bad news for airlines and travelers alike. Countries like Canada, China, and Japan are now telling the U.S. to back off on these tariffs, warning that it could mess up global travel and hurt everyone in the process. Finally, IATA now cautions that airlines may be hesitant to accept new aircraft deliveries amid tariff uncertainty. That hesitation amplifies risk as future capacity and expansion plans get put on hold. What are your thoughts on these tariffs? Who do you think should be the one to pay them? Let us know in the comments section. We hope you enjoyed watching this video. Remember to like, share it, and subscribe for more. Also, click the next video showing on your screen. You will enjoy it.